Welcome to the Athletes in Motion podcast, from race to recovery, with your hosts, Tom Riegel and Kenny Bailey.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Kenny. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Let me introduce you to Elizabeth Simi.
Right? Elizabeth?
Got it.
You got it.
And Tim
Welcome.
Sorenson. So this is part of our Triathletes Journey series. So Elizabeth is going to be competing in the Ironman California in October. Is that correct?
That's right.
And Tim is from Multisport's Endurance Academy and is Elizabeth Tri-Coach. Plug.
Yeah.
So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, welcome.
So we're excited to have you on. We want to get to kind of know you're one of three of our guests. So we have Jordan, who's doing a half, and then we have Sarah, who's doing a sprint and an Olympic. So you are our long distance person. So before we get kind of into what's going on with that, tell us about yourself a little bit. So background: were you sporty as a child? Did you grow up in sports, or is this something that's sort of a late stage? I've decided I need to go do a triathlon.
I probably have been doing sports all of my life. I started swimming when I was 8, I think, and
Nice.
on swim teams and stuff. And then I played a little bit of soccer, played some volleyball in high school, and then swam on the swim team in high school. So kind of been moving all my life. And my mom's a big hiker, so we did a lot of hiking when I was a kid. So I'm not a great athlete, but I've done a lot. How's that?
Active lifestyle from the beginning, right?
Yes.
And competitive swimmer, which gives you an advantage over some other triathletes.
Let's just say I know how to swim. I don't know how competitive I am.
That's all good.
But you have the background. So when did triathlon start entering your life? What made you decide that was the thing?
Yeah, I had seen Ironman, in Hawaii on television. I remember when it first started. I remember seeing that and thinking it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. These athletes were amazing, and how the world could they even do that? And then it just kind of got put in the back of the head. I have kids and stuff, and life went on. And then around in 2007, kids had graduated high school, and that's when I heard that there were things that were smaller triathlons, and it wasn't an Ironman, because I was like, why would anybody ride their bike that far and run that far? I swim. Yeah, we'll do that. So I decided that I was going to try out a little triathlon because I probably could do that. Right. And so I had gotten into some training. I was swimming a little bit. I was thinking about this, and I happened to be at the gym, and I was sitting in the hot tub, and I started talking to people, and they're like, have you ever heard of TBF, which is a local training group out here? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, they do these sprints and they train people. And I was like, okay. So I went and checked it out, and they actually had a women's thing going on at that time. So my first try was in 2007, and it was a sprint distance. And, and that's all I figured I'd ever do was that. So, but the Ironman was always back here.
Just bugging you, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, because it's the coolest thing ever. And then California, when it happened with the bomb cyclone and that whole thing, I was going to go out and watch them. And I was very excited for everybody. And then, of course, I was heartbroken for everybody. And then a few weeks later, I was like, it's California. It's right here. I think I'm going to try to do that. And so that's what I decided to do.
So from 2007, when you did your first sprint, what did you do in the years following? Did you continue did you get hooked into kind of the lifestyle of it and, start doing more races and doing that as it went through?
I did. I did a lot of sprints. I did a couple Olympic distance. I just kind of messed around with it for a few years. I moved out of state, and Arizona really didn't have a lot going on with
Hmm.
triathlons. So I happened to be coming up on 50 and I decided to start running, and I did a bunch of half marathons. In
Nice.
fact, I did a half marathon every month the year I turned 50,
Wow.
which is
Wow.
really stupid.
Wow.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And then my husband, he joined me in this craziness, and we did them all over the place. And then
Wow.
to finish it off, I was like, well, we should do the California Marathon to finish it off. We'll do half and half. And he's like,
Mhm.
well, I want to go across the finish line. I'm like, well, I want to go across the finish line. So we did a full to finish it off.
Why not? You had the training.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like, well, you know,
Why wouldn't
you're
you
not getting the
crazy?
glory. I want the glory. All right,
Yeah.
so-
So then when I came back to California, I started messing around, thinking about I love triathlon and I love the people and the whole thing. So when I got back, I kind of tried to get back in a few times into doing it, but there was a lot going on. And I basically got really back into doing tries last year when I started training for California. So
Okay.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's neat because you guys are from Northern California.
yes.
So it, like you said, Sacramento, you're in Sacramento. You when a brand new triathlon comes in Sacramento. Tim, can you give us a little bit of background on the TBF series? Because that's an interesting series, right? It's
Yeah, actually, they started late 90s. They were just a training group. And Fleet Feet actually created this little try for fun. And that was when triathlon was at its peak of growth. It was like the fastest growing sport in the nation. And Fleet Feet started this little try for fun. And it got way out of hand. And they said, hey, we need a little help. So TBF came in and took over the Try for Fun series, and then they just increased the distance. So Try for Fun is on Saturday. Try for Real, they call it the Try for Real, which is the Olympic distance. They have that on Sunday.
Isn't
So-
that funny?
Try for
Yeah.
fun, try for real.
Okay, we're doing this for real now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's your warm up. Now
Exactly.
go.
So and then over time they created it into basically this multi-sport series event. So June, July, and August on this particular weekend, they do the Try for Fun on Saturday, the Try for Real on Sunday, and then they also throw in for both distances the aqua bikes. So it's a swim and a bike, or I think they'll do the you can just do a bike and a run. I mean, they have a paddleboard series, so they just created all these different multi-sport events on this particular weekend in June, July, and August of every year, which has been going on, like I said, since the late 90s. So
Yeah. It's a neat series. It's actually my first one was the TBF sprint.
Oh,
And-
really?
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
and you're the swimmer and I'm not. And when I saw the buoy turnaround, I cried a little. I'm like, wait a minute, is that they're still going to bring it in, right? I mean, that's just it's floated out there overnight, right? That's going to come in, right?
It doesn't matter if you're a swimmer, you still look out there and go, ah, that's a little further than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's like,
well,
wait,
right when you pull up, you see the lake, and you see the whole lake, and you see how far apart the buoys are, and you're like, oh, who's doing that? That's
Yeah.
crazy talk.
Did
That's
somebody
not
measure
300
that?
yards. Is that? How long is that? I
like-
swear that's smaller.
Yeah, were you looking at your phone as you guys got the boat out, and then you're like, oh shit, here, put it here.
Nice.
So Elizabeth, we were going to talk about a slightly painful thing, which was
Okay.
the Ironman last year. So
So you
towed the
registered,
line at
you
Ironman.
trained, you got to the start.
What happened?
What happened?
So last year, yes, I did. I trained really hard and I did it all on my own. I actually did 3 Olympic distance and 2 sprints last year, warming up
Nice.
for this.
Okay.
And then, California Ironman was beautiful. The swim was amazing. I have to say, I loved that swim. It was just so fun. Got on the bike. It was all good. And then that wind was incredible. I mean, it was tough.
Yeah.
I actually when we made the turn and you come to the stadium and you're making that turnaround, I was like, oh, please, somebody pull me off this thing because I don't want to go back out and do that again. and then my brother was there with all his friends and they're cheering. I stopped, I got my sandwich. I'm like, okay, I'm going back out because everybody expects me to go back out. And go back out, and I'm thinking they got to pull me. There's no way I'm going to make this time, right? And I'm going, and then I look and I'm like, okay. Actually, I stopped at a rest area to get a little drink and everything, and they actually said, hey, we're calling, do you want to quit? And I was like, no. There's no way I'm ever quitting. Somebody's got to pull me off this course.
I'll wait here.
Yeah,
I'm not quitting.
No, I'll never quit. So I get back on the bike and I'm going, and I'm thinking, I know they have to pull me because there's no way I'm going to make the time. But I was like, I'm going to get to 100 miles. I've got to get to that 100-mile mark. And all of a sudden I see the people getting ready to pull people, and I see it. This is really weird because I see somebody in the middle of this road. I'm like, what the heck's that person doing? What's going on here? Well, it ended up it was my husband and my son, and they're filming as I'm coming up. And it was like mile 99, and they're like, and I looked at the officials. I said, am I done? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay.
Good for me. I'm out.
And my next thing was, I said, but I wanted to make it to 100 miles. And my son says, well, the car's over there. You can ride your bike there and you'll get it to 100 miles. I'm like, thanks, son.
Yeah,
that'll work.
That'll work.
So basically, I didn't make it off the bike, which was a little disappointing. I actually I handled it a lot better than I thought I would when they, said you're done. I didn't break into tears. It was okay. I wasn't too happy when I had to go pick up my bag at the end by the finish line. But that part wasn't too fun. But so that's what happened last year. And unfortunately, I'm the type of person that said, if I don't finish that year, I have to do it again because I have to finish. So I think it was maybe 24 hours. I'm ready to sign back up, and we're going to go for this year.
Yeah. Well, it just sounds like, doing a half iron, half marathons a month, right? I think it seems from your attitude, we love it too, right? It's like, I mean, that bike ruined a lot of people, right? I did that race and I was fortunate enough to finish it. I was hobbling across the line, but I finished it. But that bike it took many souls.
I was watching a half a dozen or more athletes that I knew that were out there that were going, and you were watching their times, and all of a sudden they all dropped significantly. It was like, oh, there's the headwind. They went out, turned, and all of a sudden, boom, everybody's times just dropped. So you just knew everybody was dealing with the same issues, and the wind was brutal. I'm just sitting back here drinking coffee, going, wow.
Yeah.
Good on you.
It was crazy too, because you would see the people coming the opposite direction, and it looked like the bikes were holding still. They weren't moving. It's like people are pedaling and the bike is just sitting there. It was actually kind of cool to see the other people out there. I mean, that's half the fun of the whole thing, is to see everybody else. But it's like, whoa.
The last 3 miles they had a mat, to let you know that you're coming in. And I averaged 9.6 miles an hour coming in. And I usually average 20 miles an hour. So I was yelling at the wind. I'm like, just the last mile, just come on. Like, that's not even funny. Just like a break at all. I'm dropping F-bombs like crazy with people, anyway.
And it wasn't like it was just the headwind. There'd be these gusts sideways and your bike would go like this. And you're just like, please don't let me fall.
That's funny. So when did Tim enter your life?
I actually met Tim last year when I was training on my own. We were both hanging out at Res. He was, doing all his little clinics and stuff, and I would just pop in and learn from him. I was taking all the free training I could get.
Are you one of those?
Yeah. I was taking advantage of all the free stuff, and went out and did some swims when he went out to the river with his athletes and different things. So Tim was kind of in my life all the year before, but I just hadn't said, "Hey, will you help me?" Officially.
So what was so you felt like getting a coach this year is something that was necessary as opposed to
what was the trigger point on that you just kind of said, yeah, maybe I should?
I think just knowing Tim for one, and my husband saying, "Hey, maybe it was either you need a better bike or maybe you need a coach," and so we went with a coach.
Both.
Or yeah, no. Tim says my bike is fine, even though it's 500 years old.
It's all good.
So Tim, when Elizabeth came to you, I mean, you kind of, like you said, she's been showing up to your classes and stuff. When she came to you, what was the analysis? What did you start thinking about sort of how to approach? I mean, it sounds like her attitude was fantastic as far as, look, you had to get pulled, but she wasn't, like you said, you weren't like, kicking cats and dogs and throwing stuff. I mean, you're obviously being upset, but how did you want to approach that training plan?
So one of my biggest sayings with all my athletes is start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And I have been lucky enough to be at the finish line of lots and lots and lots of Ironman finishes, right? And the crown for the air quote, and I mean big air quote, easy Ironmans, it's hard to put those two words in the same sentence, is Ironman Arizona. And going down to the, we'll say, less ridiculously aggressive terrain at Ironman Arizona, having the joy and luxury of sitting there watching every walk of life cross that finish line, it's hard for me to look at anybody and say you can't finish an Ironman. That's I mean, I've seen everything that you could possibly imagine cross the finish line of an Ironman, and the ridiculous amounts of adversity that people have overcome to cross the Ironman finish line. So I'm of the opinion that unless you have something catastrophically wrong for you, you can do this, right? And if we just figure out where you currently are, and this sounds a little, simple, not easy, figure out what you need to do and figure out where you are, and then just plot the course. And with Elizabeth, she had a very unique experience with Ironman California last year, right? So as somebody who will be a first-time Ironman finisher next year, she has the luxury of knowing what the swim's going to be like, knowing how brutal the bike can be. Everybody was talking about Ironman California going, oh, it's going to be the easy one because it's flat. Well, that inherently carries a lot of its own challenges. And the knowing that, it can be brutal out there, she's got a little better idea of what to expect rolling into this year. So when I give her certain exercises or certain intervals, she has a little better idea of like, I don't just hate you, I'm just actually preparing you.
Well, coaches are just sadists to begin with. We all know that. So you're in pain. I know you guys smile every time we say the word bonk. So
right.
Come on, admit it. So Elizabeth,
go ahead.
Sorry, just you're a special snowflake in the fact that you come from a swimming background, right? Because most people that don't want to do a triathlon is because they can't swim. So
right.
And the fact that you said the swim was the most enjoyable thing ever is I think a huge start, right?
It's rare to hear that in an Ironman distance race that the swim was enjoyable. So that's always refreshing, for sure.
Well, one of the things that Elizabeth can say is that particular race is one of the more enjoyable races. I mean, any race where you can just put your feet in front of you and you have your hands up and get to the finish line.
Come on, Tim.
with 1 minute, 100-yard splits. I mean, I'm not saying nothing.
A tin can can finish that, but still, it takes work, right? So,
and to be fair, it's a great swim, except for when you go from the American River into the Sacramento River, and the buoy is
buoys
upstream, and you're downstream, and you're trying to swim up to that buoy, and I'm swimming, and people are yelling, and people are stopping in front of me, and I'm yelling at them, keep moving.
It was a little insane.
And then you're just trying to get around the buoy, and you're seeing people not go around the buoy. And I'm like, there's no way I'm not going around that buoy, because I'm not DNFing now. This is not what's going to happen. So
you got to make that downhill swim a little challenging.
Exactly.
Throwing just a little hiccup in there. Just
not only that, the buoy was like way on the left side, and I'm swimming like on the other side of the river, and I got some guy yelling at me, and there's everybody's 50 yards over that way, and I'm like, what? The buoy's here. I just was eyeing the buoy. Why did you? It was insane.
So it's not the easiest swim. Come on, Tim.
So it sounds like, since you have you finished a marathon and a half, is it the bike that's the part that you're kind of honing in on? I mean,
no, I'm a terrible runner. I am an awful runner. I just will.
So rank the three sports from best to worst. Is it swim, bike, run? Because that's kind of like a whole uphill thing for you.
Swim's all good. My swim, I'm happy. Good. I mean, my bike, I'm slow as anything, and I really learned to accept my bike last year. And I had one person tell me, your bike and you are one, and I embraced that you're one thing with your bike. And so I'm very comfortable on my bike now, where I was not comfortable on my bike, especially I did fall years ago and break my arm when I was cleated in. So, and I fell a few times out there on that canal too, which Tim might not know that happened to me several times during those time trials. But,
actually, I didn't know that.
No, I know you didn't know that. Did you think I was going to come back and say I fell on the hill again?
Just all cut up. Like, no, I'm good.
I come back and
what are you talking about?
I do the run. I'm all
nobody else is bleeding. What? Just me.
And luckily, all the other athletes did not pass the word on. Hey, Elizabeth fell again. So, but I would say, I don't know. The bike and the run are probably about equally as challenging for me in the respect I'm just not that quick. But if I can get through the bike, I think my run is getting quicker, which I know from my time trials that this last run was a lot quicker than in the past. And if I ever start jumping rope, like my coach wants me to do, I'm going to be really fast.
There you go.
We need to do this on more basis. I'm getting a lot of truths out of her.
The truth serum of the podcast comes out. Here it is.
There you go. It's sort of like when your spouse talks to somebody else about you. You're like, wait, what? That's what you need to think about? So with that,
what kind of workouts are you setting her up to build that bike, to get that strength on the bike? What kind of training are you having her do to do that?
So we got 3 key workouts per discipline per week. So 3 swims, 3 bikes, 3 runs. Each one of those has a specific focus. So the one of the workouts is going to be for muscular development, durability, and strength. And those are going to be short, hard intervals. And then the other one is going to be pretty much at race pace. Now, this is kind of a weird thing with Ironman because it's just your race pace is slow. But that still may be a little bit faster than, let's just say 65% of your lactate threshold. So we are working with a heart rate and lactate threshold with her. So we figure out what those numbers are and then work out the percentages of that. So there's a tempo, which would be like a shorter middle of the week run. We'll have, a little bit faster than Ironman pace, a little bit slower than Ironman pace. And then the weekends are both the long bike and the long run. And that is just long and slow. And that's pure aerobic development.
Yeah.
And I try to keep those polarized so that if you're going too fast on your longer workouts, it takes you too long to recover. So there's a lot of fatigue management going on to make sure that we don't put any holes in her training plan and she can keep real solid consistency.
Nice. Yep.
And I think that Elizabeth, that's kind of are you I know we joke around about, you're not doing jump rope and stuff. Do you feel like you're a kind of person that can stick to a plan, or is it always sort of ups and down? I'm horrible, by the way. These guys hate me, both of them independently.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that.
Definitely up and down, and I have moved things around and said, hey, Tim, I did this on this day. Can I do this on that day? Or I just do it. And
ask for forgiveness later. Got it.
Yeah. I'm like, and I'm trying to be more consistent, and April is my month that I really am like, okay, this is it. You need to be more consistent and do what Tim's telling me to on the days that he's telling me to do it. But I am an all over the place. And when you've kind of worked out on your own a lot, you kind of go, oh, I'll move this here and move this there. And now somebody's saying, oh, this is the way to do it. So that's kind of weird in a way. But he also has explained to me, like, in my head, when I was training on my own, I would always do bike one day and run the next with my long bike and run. And Tim explained to me that I shouldn't be doing that. I should be doing the run the day before the bike. And that, Tim, what does that have to do with muscles or something? I don't know.
As long as you're doing it, that's fine. And there are some people that disagree with me. I'm not going to suggest that the way I coach is the only way to coach, but I put the run in front of the bike because unless you crash on your bike, you're not likely to get any sort of an overuse injury or a strain on riding your bike on tired legs. Where if you're running on really, really tired legs, you might end up, like I said, overuse injury or some sort of a strain, shin splints, plantar fasciitis, you name it. And like I said, with Ironman, there's so much volume involved that my whole focus is fatigue management.
Yeah. Yeah. So Elizabeth, how do you feel the training is coming along at this point?
Actually, really, really good.
So you feel a difference from last year? So
yeah, and luckily I kept a lot of numbers. I wrote down stuff from last year, and so going this year, and I can feel the difference in my body this year. So it is making a difference to have a coach and somebody that can say, hey, what the heck are you doing, when you're not doing what you're supposed to, where before it was the only thing that I had going was my husband saying, if you don't do this, you're going to be sorry later. So
like, what do you know? You're not training. You get out here and do this.
I was gonna say, well, he's did a few marathons, and his big thing was he used to do the one down in Huntington Beach. I can't think of what it's called right now.
Surf City Marathon.
Surf City.
Yeah, Surf City. He
that
loves
was fun.
Yes, he loves that marathon. And there were a few years that he did not train very well beforehand, and he felt it, and it was awful. So he always brings that up. He goes, remember, you don't want to feel sick like that. So
yeah.
And I think that's
as your volume's going up, you've got a regular job and responsibilities and duties and all that. How do you find that management? How do you find that balance?
It's awful.
That's the best description I've had.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is awful.
Well, and it's funny because last year I took a leave from work, and so I wasn't working at all last year. It was all, my job was training for Ironman. This year I am working part-time. I work at a job that I'm on my feet for 8 hours, and I'm exhausted when I get home. So a lot of times I don't want to go train because I am so tired. So that's a hard balance for me. Even today, when I knew I had this happening and I still need to go do my bike ride, and it was a long, hard day at work. So it's really, it's not easy. So balancing it, I'm not doing a great job, and don't want to blame the weather, but right now that rain has just been horrible with getting training done. So so yeah, it's awful. It's a work in progress.
No, and that's that's part of the reason why we want when people like you on this podcast is to say that it's not all linear in how this stuff happens, right? You don't just start and everyone's happy, and none of us are pros.
Yeah.
I mean, Tim's quads are pro level quads, but other than that, it's and what's nice is, and I think the theme that we're hearing too is you have a support system around you that understands what you're trying to get done.
Yes.
Right. Your husband understands the bigness of it as well.
Yeah.
So Tim, do you find that with some of your athletes do you have like folks that have that support structure? Do you see people that don't? Do you see a difference with that, or do most of your athletes kind of they get their family to sign up, or is it some of them are coming kicking and screaming?
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and my respect is massive for the athletes that don't have a solid support structure. It's really difficult. I trained a gentleman last year, an elite athlete, just a stellar athlete, and his partner was not only not interested in supporting him, but very much, you need to stop doing this. So it was really difficult for him because I could see the joy and excitement in what he was doing, but also the tumultuous relationship with his partner that, there wasn't the support on the backside.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then there are some other athletes which, even heaven, somebody's got to mow the lawn, right? I mean, there's going to be problems. My wife and I both do this, and she is an amazing endurance athlete. But when we sign up for the same races, that can be a little challenging on its own. So your support structure may be there, but it may be a competitive support structure, which carries its own challenges, right?
Yeah.
So,
but at least it's slightly more positive than you need to drop this and not do it. So
there you go.
Right. There's
that
always
stress,
be a
that
happy
mental
medium.
stress. Yeah. That just drags on them to see that it's a full-time job, all of this training load, and then having that mental drag even on your recovery side of it. I think for athletes, I agree with you. Finding when you get athletes like that are just struggling through that, it's almost more impressive that they get the things done that they do based on that boat anchor that's just dragging them down. It's awful. It's hard to watch.
And then there's the families. A good friend of mine, their license plate literally says Iron Family on it.
Nice.
They're a whole family of incredible athletes, and he gets up at 4:00 in the morning and does his workout so that when the wife gets the kids up, he takes over, right, and then starts helping with the kids while she goes and does her workout. Then
awesome.
They find another. I'm like, how do you guys?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Impressive.
So Elizabeth, you said,
sorry. Say your husband gonna, is he thinking like, to follow your footsteps on the Ironman?
No,
Absolutely.
Okay,
not.
so he's not that supportive.
Yeah, you can have it.
He's super supportive, but not gonna.
There you go.
My husband thinks I'm the best swimmer in the whole world because he does not swim and he's scared to death of swimming.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So you mentioned last
be a
year
limiter.
you did a couple of Olympics and a few sprints. Do you have stuff lined up before California, or what do you have on deck?
I am taking it easy this year.
Okay.
I am gonna do a sprint it's Folsom Lake. I don't even know when it is. I think it's in May, maybe. And then I was gonna do Oregon for the half, but it ends up my cousin's getting married that day, so guess who's not going to Oregon? I'm going to Southern California. But so the only thing I really have in my sights right now is the Folsom sprint, and I may do a few other sprints. I just kind of leaving it out there. as you know, not everybody knows, but out at Rancho Seco, it's brutal. Those races out there with the heat and everything, and I just don't know if that I want to do it again.
There's nothing wrong with that. Well, the good news for you is you've done these. So like, do you feel like your transitions are fairly good? Like you know what to expect, right?
Oh,
you get the drill, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I've done so many transitions at this point that I took a little bit of time at Ironman between swim and bike, but that was a whole different animal. But one thing, if anybody's doing California Ironman, do not put your bike shoes on before you get down to your bike, because there's no way to run on that plastic stuff.
That stuff was a little slick.
Yeah.
They got a few things to work on.
I plan on not putting my shoes on this
Carry
year,
them with you. Yeah.
So, but there's my hint for transition
there. You go.
But so I'm pretty comfortable with my transitions, and I did so many last year that it's not really a worry for me. I think my big worries are getting the bike done and then being able to finish the run. I mean, for me, it's all the times, it's because there's all those cutoff times. And swim wise, I still even think I wish I would have got in the water faster last year, went with a quicker group of people just so that I would have had more time on my bike, but I didn't. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
But Tim, you also do a couple of dry runs, right? Is that still something you do? Do you want to kind of explain those?
Well, so we starting 4 weeks prior to the event, and then every 4 weeks prior to that, we'll do an on-course group workout. I'll bring my athletes out there. I invite the athletes from the Rancho Endurance Sports Triathlon Club, and we'll meet at the confluence of the Sacramento and the American River and swim upriver. Right now, nobody's getting in that water, but normally when it's a little bit closer to race day, the water is significantly warmer, and it's wide enough and calm enough that where you can swim upriver, albeit very slowly, and then turn around and have fun on the way back down. But that's a really good way to go in there and get a good feel for swimming on course. And then since that particular area is a good transition, because you're on both the bike course and you're not really on the bike course, but you're on the run course in that particular spot. So we'll get out of the water, run up, jump on the bikes, and then it's only about 1.5 miles from there to be actually on the bike course. And the bike course is pretty straightforward. It's difficult to get lost. It's kind of a straight line. And go out and do the bike course. The swim is a point to point. The bike is 2 loops, and the run kind of goes all over the place, kind of like a bow tie type thing. So it's really easy to go out and just do one loop on the one out and back on the bike course, depending upon where we are in the season. Obviously, as we get closer, those long days get much longer as we build the volume. But it's a fantastic little spot right there in the middle of the run course or the middle of the transition. It's only about 1 mile from the actual transition area from the ballpark.
So how lucky is that, Elizabeth? I mean, how many people get to actually train on the actual course?
Well,
I mean, that's a huge advantage.
It's a total, and even for me last year, that was amazing to have Tim doing that, because I did get to ride the bike course a few times. My husband went out in the car, would, feed me along the way, which was really nice. And that gave me so much confidence on the bike ride to have that. And of course, I'd been in the river several times, so that gives you confidence. So anybody who can get out there, it's amazing to be able to get on the course and actually do that, because it does give you all the confidence. And for me, unfortunately, I probably should have been on the run course a little more, because I didn't even visualize the run at all. I knew the swim, I knew the bike. But the run, what's that? Which kind of, hey, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So.
I think the benefit of having a local race that you can check out the course and do everything really helps, because especially when you get to an Ironman distance where the aura of the event is just it's amazing, right? The energy level of all the athletes. It's hard to describe that. And then if you don't really know the course and it's your first Ironman, you don't, understand the grandeur of the transitions and everything that you're going through. It can be, very off-putting and very anxiety, driving at that point. So having to be able to practice on it, to have that to have one attempt under your belt, so to speak, already, I mean, that gives you a leg up for sure, because now you've gotten over the flash and the dazzle of it, right? So now
I don't know about
you're
that.
in this point where it's like, well, you should be coming in there a little less in awe of the event and the fact you have respect for it, you're not like this wide-eyed, like overwhelmed about everything that's going on there, because it is quite these Ironman events are quite the events. I mean, they're pretty amazing to experience from an athlete's perspective, even from a just watching. So
yeah, just watching. I was going to say, because I was lucky enough to have been in Kona when the race was going on one year, and be there and see that is amazing. And then when I lived in Arizona, I lived right there at Tempe, so I saw that, and you're just experiencing it from the sidelines is amazing. I think so.
It's a great vibe. It really is a great vibe. I love it. I just tell everybody, if you don't want to do it, just get down there and cheer people on. I mean, just the energy that you get out of this crowd and out of the athletes. It's just a great experience at all levels.
It is totally amazing. And just as somebody who, running a race, the people on the sidelines, how cool is that? And I was lucky to be in California, in Sacramento, where I knew people from tri clubs and different things, and they would yell your name as you're going by, and it's really cool. So if you're not going to race, go out and yell people's names, because that's really awesome.
It's helpful. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, one smile from a perfect stranger when you're feeling like death and you're still running that'll make the difference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I know Tom and I are going to be cheering you virtually from the sidelines as we do this. We appreciate you coming on today. We appreciate you sharing your story. I love your spirit, as far as like your approach to this thing is both hopeful and realistic, together, which I think is fantastic, right? Rarely do you get that combination. I mean, you're going in focused, you're not going in angry, right? You're going in realistic, you're not going in, like, I'm going to podium, and it's like, look, let's just
let's
get this exactly, let's just tamper that back, let's just.
What do you mean? I thought I was going to Kona.
Shut up,
I think you talk to your coach. But anyway, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate, Tim, your kind of insights into kind of how you're building her program, and we're glad to see that that you're starting to see those gains already. So
thanks for being a part of this and sharing your story, because we're following you as you go through the stages and go through the training, and everything is always fun. So this is going to be we're super glad to have you a part of this Triathlete's Journey program that we're doing. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Tim, as well. And Kenny, thanks everybody. We appreciate all your thoughts and comments and feedback. All that's great. Excuse me. Keep up with the 5 stars and the thumbs up and all of that. That helps the algorithms and helps us get out there a little bit more. And share this. Make sure you subscribe so you can follow along on the story, and you don't miss any of the episodes that we'll be dropping, the check-ins that we're doing throughout the year, and then follow us along. So once again, thank you guys. Thanks everybody. And we'll catch you on the next one.